Good evening, all. I trust everyone is safe and well and had a good weekend. Welcome to Tuesday night and session number 6 in our Live from Redfearn Bar series. The list of guests so far goes Paul Heckingbottom, Brian Howard, Daniel Nardiello, Craig Hignett and Neil Redfearn. Start of a very decent team on the pitch. All those interviews are available to watch in full on the Supporters YouTube channel. We're adding some continental flair, some boardroom glitz to our lineup tonight and coming to you live from France, although I'm not sure exactly where. Tonight's guest was the youngest CEO in football when he was at Oakwell, adopted Barnsley as his hometown, and he picked up many a fan in the process. Bonsoir, Gauthier.
Good evening, man.
Ça va?
Ça va bien.
And that's it, I'm done. That's it, my French is done.
Right.
Where are you spending this lockdown and what are you working on right now?
So I'm in Nice still. So I'm here with my wife and my little son, and still looking on an opportunity to come back into football. I'm looking for the right challenge. So we'll see.
We're in the midst of a pandemic right now. Football doesn't seem to know where to go next with regards to the current season. As a CEO, how would you approach this current crisis?
Yeah, well, I mean, like any other businesses, football clubs are struggling with the pandemic, and obviously, I mean, if you are a CEO of a football club right now, you'll be looking at your cash flows, because obviously you don't have revenue coming in, but you still have expenses like any other businesses. So you'll be making sure that your club will go through that. So if you are fortunate enough to have the league or government to help you going through this pandemic, well, it's better, but it's not the case in every country. So you'll be doing that, and I guess also a football club is not any kind of business, so you'll be looking at how you can play a part in the community, help the most vulnerable people, and just reach out to people and play your part.
And how are the French clubs adapting to it? Is there any stories from some of the French clubs and what they've done?
Well, lots of French clubs are actually struggling with their cash flows at the minute, because they still in French third division there is still 250 million to be paid of TV rights this season. So it should have been paid, part of that in April and part of it should be paid in May. But obviously, with the games not being played, broadcaster decided not to pay, which is not the case in the UK. So some clubs are actually close to bankruptcy if it carries on. So obviously we have same kind of help that the government put in place like in the UK. But football clubs, obviously player salaries are very high, so it can only help you a certain percentage of it. So.
No, it's very true. Similar to what I think we're seeing over here. So going back to the start of your adult days, should we say, in France, and before you left university, you had an internship with Lens. Was that something you identified and applied for, or how did you start at Lens Football Club?
Well, first of all, I'm from the north of France. So when you are from the north of France, there's two big clubs. There's Lens and there's Lille. And growing up in the part of north I grew up, you support Lens. So I've always supported the club since I was a kid. And going through law school, well, I've always been passionate about football. I played, and I was fancying doing something there. So I did. There wasn't an interview. There wasn't a position opened as an intern, but I just reached out to them and to meet the owner and the chairman at the time to find out if I could do something there.
And I'm guessing you enjoyed it, because you went straight from finishing university to joining Lens full time.
Yeah, well, actually, at the end of uni, I before that, I went to live in Leeds for 6 months to learn English a little bit, and I was working as a consultant for a businessman who wanted to buy the football club at Lens, and we did actually buy the football club in July 2013. That's when I come back to France to join the club, not as an intern this time, but as a full-time employee.
See, you had experience of takeovers long before you
Oh,
joined
yeah.
Barnsley.
Yeah.
I know I think you had many jobs at Lens. One of them was legal director. What else did you get involved with? Were you involved in lots of different things?
Yeah, so I started legal director, then After that, I was a general secretary, so managing basically all the departments of the club and the football administration, where I was spending most of my time. That was the two positions I held for the longest, and then at the end I was a marketing and development director for a little bit. But yeah, legal director because of my legal background, of course, and then general secretary. That it is when I really started getting involved on the football side.
And was it a successful time for Lawns on the pitch during your time there? How did they fare?
So Lens, obviously, there is a glorious past at the club. We played Champions League. We beat AC Milan, Bayern Munich. So great club to be involved. When we when I arrived at the club in July 2013, we were in second division. We got promoted back to the first division on the first attempt straight away, and then big financial trouble because we were owned by an Azerbaijanese investor. And long story short, the guy stopped backing the club. So we were struggling big time. We were under a transfer embargo, so we went back down to the second division. And few weeks before I joined Barnsley, we missed promotion last. We conceded a goal last minute, and we missed promotion.
Oh, gutting.
Yeah.
So I imagine at the time, having the South Yorkshire town of Barnsley talked about in the Ganaye house was a bit of a surprise, especially with you moving here when you were just 29. How did you hear about the Barnsley job and how did you approach applying for it?
Yeah. So I mean, the last 6 months at Lens, I was. It was clear I've done a bit everything in the club, and I wanted to see something different. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone and challenge myself. And so I was just networking a little bit, seeing what kind of opportunities I could find around. And I have a very good friend who is living in Yorkshire and he's into football. And he told me, well, look, Barnsley don't have a CEO for a while, and I'm hearing they are looking for one. So he digged a bit informations and came back to me. He said, well, this is this recruitment agency, Nolan Partners, that are handling the recruitment process. So I just got in touch with them, applied for the job, and that's how it all started.
And what was the interview process like? Who from Barnsley was involved at the other side of the table?
So first of all, usually you start by having interviews with the recruitment agency, and if they think you are worth presenting to the club, you go on the next stage. So Barnsley at the time, first meeting in Manchester with Patrick, Maurice Watkins, and James. And the second one wasn't really an interview. The second one, just getting to, I mean, viewing the club a little bit with Barry Taylor and Rob Zook.
And how much did you know about Barnsley at the point that you went for that first interview?
Well, first of all, I was quite used to Yorkshire as I lived 6 months in Yorkshire, and I did go to a Barnsley game actually, not in Barnsley but in Leeds, the Leeds Barnsley game in the championship season before I arrived, and with my friend who is living in Yorkshire, and we were very last minute, so we could only get tickets in the away, and so I didn't know it, but I was in the away and with the Barnsley fans. So
Brilliant.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know much about the town, about the club and its history. I didn't know. I didn't know that.
And were you confident after that first interview with Patrick, James, and Maurice Watkins that you were going to get the job? Did it feel good?
Well, it's always hard to be fully confident. But I remember, obviously, so you start doing the interviews with the recruitment agency, and then you got some calls, some discussion to build you up to this interview. And I remember going to Manchester and discussing with my wife over the phone, and I say, you know what, I'm going to an interview. I don't even know if I want the job. I don't know anything about it. Blah blah blah. And the first thing I said after the interview is, Well, now I know I want it because of the way Patrick talked about the club and his relationship to the club, what the club represents for the people, and it was very similar to the person that got me into football, the owner at Lens at the time. Very similar. The guy was a well, the guy is born around in the suburb of Lens. Was a successful entrepreneur, bought the club, built something incredible. So very similar to Patrick, and so I think that's why I got very interested.
And then once the move to Barnsley was officially confirmed, how much time did you have to get your head around it, tell the wife that you were moving to South Yorkshire, all that kind of stuff?
That was quite quick actually. I don't remember exactly the timing, but no, it was quite quick, and I remember giving my resignation from Lens the day after, 2 days after my wedding, and then I was gone. So
Oh,
it was
wow,
really
that
quick.
quick. So what happens on day one at Oakwell when you walk in as CEO of Barnsley Football Club?
Well, obviously strange, and I arrived on my own because my wife was 7 months pregnant, so she stayed in France. So I arrived on my own very early in the morning. So it's a bit surreal, but yeah, on day one, I mean, you go around, you try to meet everybody, try to understand who does what, who reports to who, and get the first feel about the club. It's a lot of information at first, so yeah, it was. I remember it really well actually.
And how quickly did you settle at Barnsley? I know you've said before it felt like home and you settled well, but who and what made it so easy to settle?
Well, obviously, first of all, as I've been living in England and in Yorkshire before, so quickly I was getting my habits back, and I wasn't lost there. So it's very easy, and the friendly nature of Barnsley people is obviously helping a lot. And again, it's a big similarity to where I come from in the north of France, where people are very friendly, very welcoming. So that definitely helped a lot to get me settled. I was starting really to feel like home when my wife and my son finally joined me a few months later, and then you get your yeah you get your rhythm to your life. You go out, you go for your shopping, you go for a few beers, you fish and chip on a Friday, and you get you start to feel like home. And obviously, like I said, a lot of people very friendly, and some people at the club really helped me to settle in very quickly.
And obviously when the wife moved over, that was the best restaurant in Barnsley again.
Yeah, it was. I think some people are complaining the restaurant shut down. Actually.
So did you set goals for the club from day one? And what were they? Obviously, we wanted to become a championship club, but that's an obvious one. But were there other goals that you set yourselves straight away?
Well, on day one, I don't know because you need to get, like I say, a feel of the club, a feel of the potential, what you feel you could achieve. But yeah, I mean, on the sports side, obviously, the objective was to establish the club as a championship club. Quickly, also, the idea was to kind of raise the profile of the club a little bit, and I mean, you know, it's sometimes people look down at a small town, and we wanted to create something a bit special to make the people proud about their club, about their town, and getting them closer to the club. Yeah, building something a little bit special.
And did you walk in and see things that, obviously not on day one, but over the first few weeks that you immediately changed or implemented straight away?
Maybe not immediately, but the decision was taking were taken quite early on that, and were actually implemented a bit later. But definitely, like improve a little bit the facilities on the player side to make the player feel like they are in a strong professional club, in a championship club. So just a little improvement in the facilities, having a new press room, having a little thing like that, it doesn't feel a lot. But improving the offices, I mean, usually a player, the first time he arrives at Oakwell, the first contact he has with us, when it's not over the phone, when he comes for the first time, he goes in the office. So the first image we give of the club, it's quite important. Then also the way we use communication, the tone of our social media, a lot of things like that. I wanted the club to be a bit more dynamic and yeah, to take on the challenge.
So that first summer as CEO saw us as a football club trying to replace the likes of Hurahan, Bree, Winnell, Watkins, Scowen. How challenging was that to walk into, and how did we approach it as a football club?
Yeah, very, very challenging because when you lose a lot of talented player like that that have been playing together for a long time, when you have a successful team and you have to rebuild everything within a certain model, which is quite cheap players under a certain age, it's very, very challenging. Especially, the most challenging was actually the numbers of players to get through the door because and then you need and then you need them to gel together and build something together. So that's very difficult. Usually you work on your transfer window at least 6 months in advance. So what's happening during the transfer window is not the biggest work. It's usually way before. So arriving on the 12th of June, obviously, obviously it was difficult. I remember we didn't have a lot of player reporting back for training, and it was very challenging. But we definitely managed to get a lot of players through the door that summer. Now, obviously, some recruitment have been very successful or have been proven very successful 18 months after or 24 months after. But yeah, it's hard to get the player coming from lower league to perform straight away to a demanding level of the championship.
And obviously you're involved in those negotiations around players' wages and what they demand. For those of us that want to know but are not familiar with it, how different is it trying to get a championship player who's already there and ready versus getting a lower league player who might take 18 months?
Well, obviously, if you go after a championship player, depends which club he is at. But if you are looking at the championship, a guy who have experience in the championship, with our condition of age and money, it doesn't exist. You, if you are ready to, except if the guy is on a free, yeah, maybe we can have a shot. But at the time, no, it wasn't the case, except for loan player, which we did. But no, it's very difficult. So you need to go to lower league where you are way more attractive because you are offering them a chance to get in the championship, and more than the wages, they are actually looking for the opportunity to get in and showcase themselves, and then money will come later. When you discuss with this kind of player who wants to build their way up, they are not looking at money as the first thing to decide on.
And it seems during that pre-season that there was some frustrations on recruitment from the coaching side, probably down to what you said about the number of players needed through the door. Was that tension a reality, or is that just normal in football?
Yeah, well, there is always frustration. It's part of the industry. The most important is the way we manage our frustration and we transfer them in a positive energy to build something. So yes, we had everybody at the club. We had some frustrating period because we couldn't get player quickly enough, or we couldn't get the top of our list player because of the money we were playing with. And I remember, for example, I remember well a friendly game at Rotherham where we got absolutely smashed, and yeah, he was quite frustrated, and but that was good frustration because we transformed that into a positive energy, and everybody was working towards the same goal. And he was working hard, we were working hard to get things moving, and in the following days of that, we actually got quite a few before the trip to Hungary.
There's one transfer that summer that's always talked about because we, as Barnsley fans, think it could have been the saviour of our season. I think we all look back at the McBurney transfer and dream about what might have been. What happened with that deal that stopped it going through?
Don't take me back there. It's a nightmare. I mean, Oli, we need to remember because Oli now is banging goals in the Premier League. But at the time, he wasn't getting any minutes in the first league at Swansea. But we were really early on that transfer window. We were straight away after him, and Eki in particular, he knew him well because obviously every age category he played around Yorkshire. He has basically been performing incredibly well each age category he was on. So no matter what the level is, he always score goals. You don't know how, you don't know. It's not always beautiful, but he score goals. So we were on him really early on, but for some reason, I mean, obviously Swansea wanted to keep their options open, so he was there as a backup, as a third or fourth choice, and they didn't want to let him go until they secure their signing. So, but we made the decision all together we made the decision that it was worth waiting, even if it was until the last minute to secure him, because we were convinced it was the right one. So we can challenge this decision. We can say, well, should we have secured another one or should we have waited? I mean, well, now when you see what's happened, obviously we should have signed somebody else, but at the time, obviously we couldn't know. What happened is very simple. We chased them all the time. We were convinced we were gonna get the deal, and they came back to us like 2 hours to deadline on deadline day, and send us all the paperwork. But when we submitted the paperwork received, so we sign everything, they sign everything, send them back to us. We submitted to the EFL, and we realized, I don't know, I think it was 15 or 20 minutes later, that they missed a signature on one of the pages. So we told them, they signed it again, sent it back to us. We resubmitted it. So like, yeah, 15 minutes later, and we thought, well, clearly that should be all right. And so the day after, we went on the day or 2 days after, we went on to a kind of an appeal or something, and the board of the EFL needed to make a decision, and they decided he wasn't valid. That's fine.
Heartbreaking.
Thank you.
So we were having a tough time those first few months of that season. How was the view heading into that January transfer window? What was the head coach asking for as we approached that one?
Yeah, the first part of the season, we were all right. We were obviously we were not playing mid-table, but we were all right. We were still gaining quite a lot of points, but we were slowly starting to go closely to the relegation zone. Well, it was clear that we were short on option up front, so we only really had Tom Bradshaw as a striker, and Tom was a good servant, but we needed more option. So quickly we decided. I think it was beginning of December. We decided to try to work on the Kiefer Moore deal, and also we still wanted to do the McBurney deal, but same story again. I mean, crazy, but what they did to us in the summer, they did to us again in the winter, because they wanted to keep him around the team in case they didn't get the player they wanted. So again, we needed to wait. And so we secured Kiefer very early. I don't remember the dates, but I think in the first few days of the window, we secured that. And then for Oli, we needed to wait until, I don't know if it was deadline day, but it was definitely in the last week. I remember that. Yeah, Eki was asking for a more experienced centre back, because the Liam Lindsay and the Pinnock of last season, well, obviously they were just coming at the time, so they needed to fund themselves a little bit. So we went for Matt Mills, and that was I mean, the biggest piece of business. Then we did a little stuff like we did obviously Nas Milner, who didn't turn out to work. But yeah, mainly the focus was on bringing in more option up front.
Hecky then left to go to Leeds. He told us that at that point he was going to take the next job that was offered. Was that something that the club were aware of? And if so, how do you prepare for your head coach leaving mid-season?
Yeah, well, Eki has been. I think it's fair to say he was frustrated for since what happened the season before. I think the frustration came from there. We were discussing together his new deal for the last few weeks, few months. Probably spent 2 months on his new deal. Then obviously the takeover was slowing some process, and we agreed on his new deal. Didn't announce it straight away because of sadly Patrick Patrick passing, and we announced it. It wasn't obvious to me that he would go anytime because, well, it was a possibility that he would go, but it wasn't obvious that he would go for any club if he got the opportunity. I mean, we've been working on the window together. Um, the Kiefer Moore, McBurney, Matt Mills that came in, he wanted them, so but he knew it would be very challenging at Barnsley. But like I said, I think the frustration was there from a long time ago, and it was quite a big opportunity he got at the time. So I understand. I could understand his decision.
So I think some Barnsley fans think the new contract was designed as a way of securing compensation for Barnsley, and it was done really quickly. But obviously, that's not the case. Is that right?
Well, the new contract was designed to reward the work of the head coach that have been performing well the season before, well the beginning of the season, and to put him to a level of wages that we believe he deserved. Then obviously the lawyer in me will always put compensation clauses in the contract. I did it for Eke, I did it for Daniel. The fact that he was supposedly close to the door didn't impact the way we negotiated the release clause. The release clause is always a balance to find between the level of the wages and the compensation. So it was a fair deal for everybody, and we didn't sign a new deal just to get compensation on him. I mean, it's crazy to think that, and it's crazy to think like I've heard that we kicked him out the door. It's crazy to think that him and I didn't have a good relationship. We had a good relationship. He's very straightforward. I'm very straightforward. We always had conversation. We were not always agreeing with each other, but honestly, 95% of the time we agreed with each other. And I congratulated him when he got the job at Hibs, congratulated me when I got the job at Nice. So I've never felt targeted by anything he must have said after.
So then, out of nowhere, really, a real curveball for Barnsley fans, we appoint Jose Moraes as head coach.
Yeah.
What was the process of getting to his appointment, and how many candidates did we interview?
Process. Well, obviously, like I said, he was. I really didn't expect Eki to leave, especially after the window. So it was unexpected. So we needed to start a recruitment process from scratch. We received a lot of applications. We probably talked to, I don't know, 15 people. Some of them, it wasn't possible to get them out of their job anyway. So we ended up, I think, if I'm remembering well, I think we probably interviewed 7 people. With me, James, and Rob, and also the board were involved on the conference call and stuff like that. And Jose was the best candidate we interviewed, believe it or not. He proved us that he really studied the team. He proved us that he would get this team playing a certain way and performing well enough to stay in the league. after well, yeah, now it's easy to say he wasn't the right choice, but like I always said, if I have to interview the same candidate again today, I think we will all make the same decision today, as crazy as it may sound. I think if I have to do something different, it would be more. I don't think he was the wrong person. I think he was probably at the wrong time and in the wrong conditions. I'm explaining. For me, the cultural shock of him coming with his method, his a very European background in his approach uh, to a very UK club, lots of British player at the time in a relegation fight. We should have probably put somebody with a bit more of British background in his backroom staff, because when you remember well, the team played quite well. We scored quite a lot of goals. We were quite unlucky many times. Then yeah, there was some decision that were not the good one, but again, I don't think it's as easy as people think.
So you always get rumours when things aren't going well on the pitch, but it did feel like when Jose took over that some of the more experienced players were cast aside, and then there was some questionable formations, and there was some rumoured halftime team talks that were sounded quite interesting. As a CEO, how much attention do you pay to those stories, and how do you choose to ignore them or believe them or do something with them?
Well, these two things. First of all, there is stories, rumors, and then there is fact that you can even not being in the dressing room 24/7, you can see it yourself. So in terms of his way of managing the team, I think if you look at all the period he managed the club, he pretty much gave a chance to all the players. So yeah, some players at some point they may have been put aside, but he actually gave a chance to every one of them.
And
Then,
we
yeah, then we are talking about some formation choices. Like everybody else, I remember some choices I didn't understand. When you are 1-0 up, Hull City away, and you finish with a back seven, I didn't get it. But again, it's I don't know, because he's the same person that managed to get you in front 1-0 up at Hull City, who managed to win 3-2 against Sheffield United at home, who was very unlucky against Bristol City, against so. But yeah, and then the team talks. Then yeah, as a CEO, you need to listen to the player you trust sometime, and get the right information. But you need to be careful, because player obviously have a tendency sometimes to complain easily and the discharge of their responsibility. So you can't, when you have done a choice in February to appoint a coach and the season is up mid-May, you can't really fragilize him in the eye of the player, because then you're shooting yourself even more. You're not gonna change again, coach. So yeah, you listen to it. You talk to the guy. You try to change some things. We did change something. At the end, the player were complaining about going away the night before, stuff like that, when it was not always necessary. We changed it. There's most of things we changed, but it's funny to think that Jose actually changed way less things than Daniel changed when he came to the club in terms of the player habits. And the only thing, player will always complain and have the right to complain when the performance is not there on the pitch. But it's funny to say that when you win football game, nobody complains. So
So we were ultimately relegated with a poor showing at Derby. As a boardroom team, how had you been planning for relegation, and knowing that Moraes had a relegation release clause, was it always the plan that if we lost that game, he would leave?
well, again, the lawyer and me would wanted to appoint somebody in February with a release clause, because the mission was simple. You keep us in the championship, you will have your next season deal. If you don't, then you are not the right person, and we will change things for next season. So it was clear from the beginning. And I have to say that I have to say that not everybody we interviewed would, or not everybody who would have offered the job to would have accepted that. So the fact that he accepted that reinforced the fact that he had a belief in the staying up also. Then yes, we had a plan for relegation, but I was until the day of the derby game, I was convinced we'll stay up because I mean we had everything to stay up, and but obviously your job is to plan for the worst, and we did. I mean I remember clearly we had a clear plan because if we were going to go down, I wanted the fans to hear straight away back from the board and for myself to see that we are, yeah, I'm taking responsibility for it. I'm not hiding behind anybody else. I take my share of responsibility, and I did want them to know straight away that the decision were taken to remove the coaching staff, and that we were straight away working on to next season. And there was something in my mind that I wanted. Obviously, something that I wanted to avoid was, for example, what I've seen at Sunderland a few weeks before, where they asked Coleman to do the press conference and sack him the day after. I thought that was outrageous, and that don't give a good image of the club. So we wanted to give a good image, professional image of the club, and show that okay, well, fair enough, we lost on the pitch, we take this one on the chin, but we will come back.
And don't answer this if you don't think you can, but if Jose had said no to the job, who was plan B?
You don't know. I don't think you know the guy. I don't think you know the guy. He wasn't British based either.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. So it was quite a hectic debut season for a young CEO new to English football. So not only did we have two really important transfer windows, we had a tough championship season, a relegation, a head coach change, but then we also had a consortium takeover. How were you involved in that deal, and how long was it in the making?
Yeah, and we also had the passing of Patrick, which was
Absolutely, yeah.
for the club and the people working at the club and the environment. He was also something we needed to handle, and something that definitely affect everybody, but then also gave a lot of energy to everybody to do well in his memory. The takeover, obviously, well, it's funny because the day I started on the 12th of June at Barnsley, Monday, 11th of June, I arrived in Yorkshire, and Patrick invited me for dinner at his house. And then he cracked up the news to me saying, look, I'm negotiating with people to sell the club. So I'm like a bit in shock, obviously, because you know that your job could be at stake, and but basically you left your home country, you left your job, everything to come here for a challenge, and you realize that, well, maybe it could be over quickly. But anyway, start working a lot, and obviously getting in touch with the new investors, and trying to help Patrick to get this deal over the line, because that was something very important for him. So I played my role in this takeover, and I'm happy it happened for the club, and it happened at the right moment for Patrick, and I'm really happy he managed to do that before going.
And I know you've talked in the past really positively about your relationship with Patrick and how strong that was. How different was it for you pre and post takeover? How did things change?
Yeah, I always talk positively about Patrick because it's not everybody who will give a chance to somebody relatively young, and he take a young spirit to recognize something like that, and to dare. And he was definitely somebody who wasn't afraid to dare. So I had a lot of respect for that. And yeah, we had a good relationship. Unfortunately, I would have liked this partnership to. I think we would both have liked this partnership to go on for a bit longer, because he was a funny guy to be around as well. Different because obviously Patrick is a local businessman, born in Barnsley, so obviously something quite special in football, something that I've also known in Lens with the owner who was born there, so lots of similarity. And then on the other side, you've got international consortium, something I've also been used to in the past. So different, obviously, lots of differences. I mean, differences in terms of reporting, in terms of involvement they want to have in the club. Patrick, he liked his little call at night to know what was happening, everything. So it's a bit different, and he was also new people to build a relationship with. So a lot of work to do that also. So interesting times.
And fans are always intrigued to know what role Billy Bean plays in the club. How often did you speak to Billy Bean, and what did you discuss when you spoke to him?
Well, so Billy is a minority shareholder, but obviously uh, with his sporting background, I mean, he has an involvement in the club, especially on the data side of the recruitment, and we would be crazy not to take advice or take a bit of his experience from time to time. He was during my time. He was mainly in touch with James Crine on a daily basis, I believe, and with myself when it was needed, when we needed to discuss something in particular on a player. But I'd say I did maybe once a week, and maybe a little bit more during the transfer window. But he was always included in reports that I could have sent to the board of decision we wanted to make or stuff like that. But yeah, he was involved on the recruitment side of things.
So we're back to preparing for life in League One, only this time we've got very different owners. As the first full season under the new ownership, it was always going to be the target of promotion, but obviously we didn't have a head coach. So how did Daniel Stendel end up on our radar, and was he the number one choice?
Yeah, so like I said, when we appointed Jose, we were looking for a quick fix. We were looking for, and we always knew that if we were going to go down, we will have to rethink everything because we can't just rely on one man. We need to have a club philosophy, a way to play, a style of play, something that fits to the city and to the town. Sorry, and so we did some research to identify the style of play that was the most efficient and counter pressing is one of the most efficient way to play football, and something that fit quite well, I think, the mentality of people in Barnsley. So James, who is very involved on the data side of things in the recruitment, worked on the counter pressing data to identify coach like we would identify a player, exactly the same way. And we came with a list of name, and obviously when you take off all the impossible ones, the first one on the list was an Eastern German guy called Daniel Stendel, and another guy on the list was Gart. So it was funny, and then the ball is to me to reach out and try to organize something to get to know them, to meet them, to see what's possible, to get a presentation or what the way they want, because we were sure of the style of play we wanted to implement. So then we wanted to find the right person to do the job. So we knew Daniel was good at this style of football. Now is he the right fit for us, for the club, for England? For We didn't know that. So reach out to his agent, and very quickly. I remember it was a crazy period. Me and James. We traveled quite a lot. Sometimes 3 planes during a day during this period. It was a bit funny. So we went, well, no, first of all, Daniel came at Heathrow Airport with his agent for a meeting and flew back to Germany like a few hours after that. And he didn't speak any word of English. So quite surprising. He did a fantastic presentation. You can tell he was black and white, what he wanted. And he well, Daniel now, so he kind of transfer his energy, let's say, and quite a likable character. And I don't know, I'm quite an instinctive person, so I got a good feeling about him. And then we continue our little tour in Europe to interview people, and Gerhard was one of them. We interviewed others, and then well, we said, okay, let's see what is possible with this Stendel guy. Obviously, the guy has been in Bundesliga club, so not easy to attract him to the championship and to us. So I decided to go to Hamburg when he was leaving. I wanted to see the guy in his environment, so we spent quite a lot of time there, get to know each other. Wanted to meet his backroom staff because he doesn't speak English. I had a big target in my back if I signed another non-UK manager. So I wanted to make sure that the guy was supported by a backroom staff who speak perfect English, who could communicate what he wants to the player. So that was very important. It took a lot of convincing, but we did manage to take it to get him over the line, and I'm really happy. I'm very happy we did so, and it was the beginning of a good adventure.
And some of the football we played under Stendel was nothing short of phenomenal at times that season. So, I mean, you just touched on it just then, but after the challenging times with Moraes, did you take extra pleasure just seeing how good we were under Stendel?
Well, no, I mean, the fact that what happened with Jose doesn't impact the way I was feeling after. I mean, I was just happy to see that it's always, nice when you have a plan, when you imagine something, and when you believe in it and you put your heart and soul in it, to see it actually happening in front of your eyes for the first game of the season against Oxford, where you can clearly say that this team is not playing. He's not playing any kind of football. You can see. I mean, everybody that day at Oakwell could clearly see what he wanted for the player, and the player doing it. I mean, that was impressive. So yeah, you take a great deal of satisfaction to see that happening in front of you after imagining it and making everything to get it happen. Yeah, it's satisfying.
And you lost the target on your back with the way that Stendel worked out.
Stick on my back quite a long time until he actually spoke an okay English.
One of the obviously we did really well up until the January transfer window, and we're flying high towards the top of the league. We then sell Brad Potts, which is a bit of a surprise. In some fans' eyes, that weakened the squad when a lot of fans thought we needed to do the opposite. Did we have to sell Potts, and was the money not there for us to reinvest?
We didn't have to sell Brad, but by selling Brad, we secure the financial stability of the club long term. So we believed he was the right decision for different reasons. Not just because the money was good. It's not the only reason. It's because Brad was a fantastic player and a great guy to be around. But we believe with the style of play we wanted, we needed more. We needed more from the winger. We needed more ball in the box, and Brad had this ability to score. So obviously, when you have this ability to score, he was striving through the midfield and quite central, and always wanted to score, and he did it on many occasions, and we are all happy about it. But we believe that so if the money is great, if we believe we can replace him with somebody who fits better what we want to implement, then we should do it. And we believe at the time, and all the information we had regarding Jacob Brand performance at the time, we believed he would fit better and he would contribute more to the style of play that Daniel wanted to implement. And I don't think when you look back at things now, I think we were right to do so. Even so, yeah, he created something in the dressing room. Some player may have start thinking, well, wait a minute, we want to get promoted and we sell pots. So then it needs a bit of explanation, a bit of reassurance. But then the result came very quickly. So.
And it's easy with hindsight that obviously we got promoted and everything was fine, and the town of Barnsley went crazy for a few days as we celebrated. But Did it feel like the club was gambling at the time with not investing in the squad in January when we were competing with the likes of Luton, Sunderland, and Portsmouth? Because we didn't sign a lot of players that transfer window when
Mm.
a lot of fans thought we needed one or two just to get us home.
Yeah, I mean, you can always think you need more ammunition to do the job. But I believe the bigger investment and the best job we could have done was to secure our team, was to make sure we don't sell Alex Morwood, we don't sell Cody Woodrow, we don't sell Kiefer Moore. That was all this kind of thing was more important than getting anybody in, because you can tell. I mean, from the outside, maybe you don't feel it, but you can tell from the outside this group of players was way good enough to do the job. And sometimes it's more important to secure what you already have than try to look for something better that would need time to adapt, to gel with the others. And I believe that and we all believe that as a club that the team was good enough. Maybe we should have signed another a winger, striker, and maybe would have been even winning the title. I don't know. Maybe not. It's hard to say, but no, I think we did good, because when you remember at the start of the season we had some. I'm not gonna go into financial details, obviously, but it was a real commitment for us. For example, to when Daniel told us, you know what? Okay, Alex Mowat last season we didn't get a chance with former managers, blah 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 blah. Everybody is saying he's too slow. I think this guy could play in my system. So it was a bit of a surprise at first because we didn't plan for that, and it was quite a big commitment financially for us to follow that belief of Daniel, and it was a gamble. We did it. Then we went out to when we sell Bradshaw. Again, everybody must have been thinking, they sell our best striker, and he was good. He was perfectly fitting the style of play. But when we had the opportunity to get Cody Woodrow on a free, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You need to do that. So, and it was again a commitment financially, maybe not in terms of transfer fee, but in terms of wages and again and again and again with lots of players, because lots of these players were not League One player. So
And we'll come on to Nice in a second, but how did you keep an eye on the promotion running from France? So you left at the end of January. As an adopted Barnsley fan, was it hard juggling the challenges of Nice and watching all the Barnsley results?
well, like everything in life, when there is something you like, you love, you always make sure you keep time to enjoy it. So I've been watching every game. I've been talking to Daniel after every game and sometime before. Lots of the people in the staff, and yeah, watching all the game. And I really enjoyed it, and I wish I'd been there sometimes.
So we've mentioned Nice a couple of times, which is obviously where you left after you departed Oakwell end of January 2019. You left Barnsley for a Champions League level club managed by a footballing invincible in Patrick Vieira, a France legend and World Cup and Euro winner. How much of a challenge or how daunting was that on day one to walk into such a big football club?
Well, it's very different. Wasn't daunting. I mean, my personality is more I embrace the challenge, and I don't really think twice. I just jump into it, and I get things going. So I didn't. And I got into it really quickly. I mean, it was crazy because I wanted to. I could have left earlier, but I honestly couldn't imagine myself leaving Barnsley before or in the middle of the transfer window. I kind of felt the least I could do if I was gonna go was to finish that. I mean, I went to Germany to get Daniel, and I'm gonna explain to the guy I'm leaving. I was talking to the fans and telling them I was leaving before or during. It was not possible in my head, so I worked until last minute. Took a car down to London. The driver took me down to London around 2 a.m. in the morning. Took a plane at 6 a.m. Arrived in Nice. I got changed, talked to all the employees, press conference and the press, and jumping on the plane to go up with the team in Lille to meet the team, meet Patrick. Was quite a crazy day, but was actually the perfect start, because when it's like that, when you feel like the challenge ahead is a big one, you need to get into it very quickly. And actually, I wouldn't change this first day for nothing, because it was perfect to just jump into it straight away.
Now Barnsley can be known as a challenging club and community to be involved in, as we're also passionate about the club and the town. But as an outsider, Nice felt quite toxic at the time. Was that the case? Did you feel that when you walked in at Nice, how challenging it was?
It was challenging because of the I would say, like, because of the context at the time. I mean, context at the time, you got some minority shareholder who have been there historically for like 10 years, who is leaving the club, who was the chairman. He's leaving. I arrive after a transfer window where they did no signings at all, and it was obvious to everybody they needed a signing. So you arrive the day after that. Obviously, you are the guy everybody is pointing guns at, even if you haven't done anything. Yeah, it was challenging. I wouldn't say the atmosphere was toxic, but first of all, what you need to understand is culturally it's very different between UK football and European football, and especially like South France, Italy, where the ultra fans are very vocal, very important. They want to have a say in the running of the club. They want to know everything. You need to meet them very often. It's something that you need to manage when you are managing a club. So I wouldn't say toxic, but it became a bit toxic when the news was out that Jim Ratcliffe wanted to buy the club, because obviously they all wanted him to take over. They were thinking, we're gonna take on PSG. This is it. This is our time. So then you become the man on the ground, and yeah, you become funny sometimes.
And then did you join Nice knowing that there was a sale coming up, or were
Yeah,
you there thinking this was a long-term project?
it was a long-term project. I was definitely committing long-term, and the offer to buy the club actually arrived. I think it was a month and a half or 2 months after I joined. So it came as a surprise. But I mean, quickly I understood when somebody like Jim Ratcliffe want to buy a football club, I think he will succeed to close the deal. So.
So going back to your time at Oakwell for the last handful of questions, there were some great PR initiatives during your time as CEO that a lot of fans remember really fondly. You had the mental health letter, free sanitary products and ladies' toilets. That's just two of many that went on. How do those end up on your radar, and how do you act quickly to take advantage of them?
Well, first of all, like I said at the beginning of the interview, when you asked me what we did set up as goals for the club, communication has always been key in my head, because I thought we needed to do something with the club communication. It was a bit dusty. We needed to be more dynamic, more young in a way, to change this image a little bit, and so. Um, I promoted somebody in the club, Adam Lamping, for those who know him, as head of communication and media. And his mission was simple. I mean, we needed to improve our communication. We needed to be everywhere. We needed to raise the profile of the club, and we say we are a community club. Well, then we need to act like one, and we need to reach out to people, and we need to find opportunities to do that. Uh, Adam has been probably with Rob Zug the closest colleagues I had at Oakwell. So usually that was quite. So it was clear for everybody. It was a big point in our strategy, and Adam was in charge of that. So usually it was something like when we have our coffee in the morning, he debriefed me about everything, or in the afternoon, and he explained to me, well, this is what's happening, and we discuss together if we think it's something the club should do something or not, and I think we did quite well, and I'm happy that we did that, because I think he also stays. Yeah, Barnsley has always been like that before I, and he will be long after me. But he's good because he reminded to people we are a community club. We can do It's not because we won't spend a lot of money that we can't do anything. Yeah, you can do things, and I'm happy to see that the club is carrying on lots of things like that, and it's good. It's in the DNA of the club.
And Dave Murphy's talked recently about the importance of having a good team around you when you're CEO. Did you have that good team at Barnsley, and how important is it that it's such a close-knit group within that office?
I mean, it's the biggest part of the job description of the CEO. I think it's surrounding himself with the right people, with the right skills at the right place in the organization. It's not a one man band, you know. You can't do anything on your own, and it's not because you are CEO that you are good at everything. So you need to surround yourself, and what you need is to see potential in people, and to put them then in the right place in the organization, give them your vision for the club, but then don't tell them how to do it. If you think they have the skills to do it, you give them the vision, let them do it. You don't you can't tell them how to do it. That's as simple as that. So it's
And
very important. I agree with Dane on this point.
and then two more questions, but are you looking to get back into football soon, and could that be in the UK? I know there was some newspaper or internet rumours about Charlton, and or could a return to Barnsley at one point be an option for you?
That's a lot of questions, huh?
I know. Sorry.
Oh well, getting back into football, like I said, as an introduction, yes, definitely. This is what I've always been doing, and this is my passion, and I think I'm quite good at it. So I want to continue doing that. I already had some opportunities to go on some project, especially in France. I didn't decide to go on because I didn't think it was the right project. I'm somebody who is passionate, so if I don't feel passionate about a project, it's hard for me to jump on it, because like I've said a lot of time, it's not a job. It's something that take on your life, on your personal life, and your family have to accept that your phone is ringing all the time, even when you are not there, even when you are here, you're not really here, and you are away most of the time. So it's very demanding. So you need to do it for the right reason. And for me, if there is no passion, it doesn't interest me. Then on your point about going back to the UK, I've always been honest. I've enjoyed my time in the UK. I think I like the mentality of British people, and especially in the north and in Yorkshire, like I've experienced. So yeah, if I have it's the home of football, like I always said. So if you have the opportunity to work in the UK, you would be crazy to turn it down. Obviously, if you can work for a UK club, if it's the right one, obviously I would do it again. When is that gonna be? I don't know. But and then what was the other question?
Could that UK club be Charlton?
Never say never.
Yeah. And do you see a point where you might come back to Barnsley one day?
Well, I've always been honest. I mean, I've really enjoyed my time there. I had a life there. I really felt like home. My family felt well there. Used to go to our shows, fish and chips on a Friday, go to Cannonball on a Sunday, few beers at the pub. I really enjoyed my time there, and I went back a few times, and it's always a bit special, and I would always cherish this time of my life. Now, would I like to go back one day? Never. I never say never. It's somewhere I felt well. If one day the opportunity feels right for the club, for me, why not?
And then one final question: if you could change one decision that you made in your Barnsley career, which one would it be?
Decision I've made,
It's a tough one to finish on.
I think deadline day.
McBurney.
No, deadline day, summer deadline day. I regret not going into Rob Zook office to say, look, Rob, it's gonna cost 10 grand. Book an helicopter, land it on the car park at Oakwell. I'm going down to South Wales, seeing Hugh Jenkins at Swansea. I'm gonna give him my pen and I'm gonna tell him, Hugh, don't do a mistake. Don't you forget this last page of the contract and put your signature down on it.
Brilliant. I think that's a great answer.
Yeah.
Well, look, I know it's getting late in France right now, so we'll bring it to a close there. Many thanks on behalf of the Trust and all Barnsley fans for your time and putting the time zone difference in our favour, which is really appreciated. Wish you all the best with whatever the next move ends up being and keep us posted.
Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Before we officially sign off, some reminders and some new news for you. On Thursday night, we'll be joined by Luke Steele, former captain, FA Cup goalie, a player with over 200 Barnsley appearances. He's joining us at 7 p.m. on Thursday. We can also now announce that next Tuesday, our guest will be former Reds manager, capped by England 30 times and a 2 times European Cup winner. So we'll have Viv Anderson with us live at 7 p.m. next Tuesday. Gauthier, thanks once again.
Thank you, guys.
Stay safe, everybody, and see you on Thursday.
I'm still on. I don't know if it's finished or...
No, he said stay on. He said at the end.
Okay.
Oh my God, fucking liberate me. I can't.
Ah, il est truc.
Ah, he's been jumping.